Princess Beatrice has finally reached her breaking point, and the decision she just made is sending shockwaves through the halls of Buckingham Palace, signaling the end of an era for the once tight-knit York family. It is a moment of profound transformation, one that many royal observers believe was inevitable, yet nonetheless devastating to witness. Hello, dear viewers. It is a pleasure to have you with us today as we explore a story of loyalty, betrayal, and the heavy burden of a royal legacy that has become too heavy to carry. Before we dive into the heart of this unfolding drama, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update on the lives of the British royal family. Your support allows us to continue bringing you these deep-seated analyses of the monarchy we all follow so closely. For decades, the York family, Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson, and their daughters Beatrice and Eugenie, were known as the inseparably bound unit. They were a fiercely loyal quartet, often standing together against the world, regardless of the scandals that seemed to follow them. They were the Fab Four of a different kind, a family that prioritized their internal bond above the external pressures of the press and the public. But today, that unity has shattered. The exile of Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, has created a rift so deep that even his eldest daughter, Beatrice, can no longer bridge the gap. We are witnessing what royal correspondent Phil Dampier has poignantly termed the York Greek tragedy, a slow-motion collapse of a dynasty within a dynasty. To understand the weight of Beatrice's current predicament, we must first look at the sheer scale of her father's fall from grace. Prince Andrew, once a decorated naval hero and the reported favorite son of the late Queen Elizabeth II, has seen his world crumble. He has been stripped of his military honors, his right to use the style, His Royal Highness, and for all intents and purposes, his public life as a prince. This wasn't just a professional demotion, it was a social and familial execution. For Beatrice and Eugenie, who were raised to idolize their father and respect the institution he represented, this has been a psychological earthquake. Phil Dampier's description of this as a Greek tragedy is particularly apt. In the classical sense, a Greek tragedy involves a high-born protagonist whose own flaws, hubris, lack of judgment, or moral failings lead to an inevitable and catastrophic downfall, often dragging their innocent family members along with them. In this modern retelling, the daughters are the ones paying the ultimate price for the sins of the father. Everything Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson touch lately seems to turn to ash, and the girls are left trying to sift through the remains to find a future for themselves. The emotional toll on Princess Beatrice has reached a critical mass. Recent reports suggest she is experiencing what can only be described as a nervous breakdown. Imagine the pressure of being a counselor of state, a high-ranking member of the line of succession, while simultaneously being the daughter of the most polarizing figure in the United Kingdom. She is constantly walking a tightrope between her duty to the crown and her love for her father. But the shame has become unbearable. She sees the way the world looks at her father and, by extension, the way they look at her. There is a specific haunting detail that weighs more heavily on Beatrice than perhaps anything else. It was her recommendation, her voice of encouragement, that reportedly tipped the scales in favor of Prince Andrew, sitting down for that fateful Newsnight interview with Emily Maitlis. Beatrice was there in the wings, watching as her father attempted to defend his association with Jeffrey Epstein and his relationship with Virginia Giuffre. She watched in real time as he, in Dampier's words, hung himself with his disastrous answers, his lack of empathy, his bizarre claims about an inability to sweat, and his insistence that he had no regrets. Beatrice believed the interview would be a way to clear his name, to show the public the man she knew. Instead, it was the final nail in the coffin of his public life. To carry the guilt of being the one who steered him toward that cliff is a burden no daughter should have to bear. It is a ghost that haunts her every time a new headline emerges or a new documentary is released. She feels responsible for the acceleration of his ruin, and that guilt is eating away at her mental well-being. The Newsnight interview didn't just expose Andrew's lack of judgment, it exposed the naivety of the daughters who thought they could protect him. While Beatrice grapples with guilt, her sister Eugenie is dealing with a different kind of fire. Eugenie is the co-founder of the Anti-Slavery Collective, an organization dedicated to fighting modern slavery and human trafficking. The irony of her father's associations is not lost on anyone, least of all the public. How can one sister fight for the victims of exploitation while the father is accused of being part of a circle that facilitated it? This paradox has created a profound sense of anger within Eugenie. Sources suggest she has gone weeks without speaking to her mother, Sarah Ferguson, as she tries to distance herself from the York brand to protect her charitable work and her own family's reputation. The tension reached a boiling point during the most recent Christmas season. Traditionally, the Yorks would gather at the Royal Lodge, the grand residence Andrew still clings to despite the king's efforts to move him out. But this year, a significant shift occurred. Beatrice and Eugenie made the conscious, public choice to spend Christmas at Sandringham with King Charles III and Queen Camilla, rather than staying behind with their parents. This wasn't just a holiday preference, it was a strategic move for survival. It is rumored that Prince William played a pivotal role in this decision. William, who has taken a hard line against his uncle Andrew, reportedly reached out to his cousins. He persuaded them that if they wanted a future within the royal fold, if they wanted to hold their heads up high, they had to be seen with the king. He reminded them that while they cannot change their parentage, they can choose their loyalty. By joining the main royal party for the traditional walk to church, they were signaling to the world that they are part of the king's monarchy, not the Duke of York's shadow. For Beatrice, this decision was also a matter of business and family stability. Her husband, Eduardo Mozzi, is a successful property developer and a man who moves in high society circles where reputation is everything. Eduardo is reportedly becoming increasingly frustrated with the Andrew problem. He is a father now, and he is looking at the long-term future of their daughter, Sienna. He sees the toxic cloud surrounding the York name and is reportedly demanding that Beatrice distance herself from her father for the sake of their child. Eduardo is a man of the world. He understands that in the circles of the global elite, association is everything. He has watched as Beatrice's social standing has been subtly eroded by her father's headlines. He has seen the invitations that no longer arrive, the whispers that start when they enter a room. For a man building a global brand in luxury real estate, the York Association is no longer an asset. It is a liability. It is reported that Eduardo's ultimatum was not one of cruelty, but of pragmatism. We have a daughter to think about. We have a future to build. We cannot be dragged down by the ghost of the past. Imagine the conflict Beatrice feels. On one side, she has her father, a man she loves who is now isolated and broken. On the other, she has a husband who is thinking about their daughter's future and a king who requires absolute loyalty. She is caught in a pincer movement between her past and her future. Eduardo's ultimatum is clear. The association with Andrew is a liability that could affect their standing in the business world and their daughter's life. He wants a clean break, or at least a significant distancing, to ensure that the sins of the grandfather do not visit the granddaughter. This marital strain is adding another layer of exhaustion to Beatrice's life. She is trying to be a supportive wife, a protective mother, a loyal daughter, and a dutiful royal. It is an impossible quartet of roles. The York Greek tragedy is not just about the fall of a prince, it is about the collateral damage to the women in his life. Sarah Ferguson, too, finds herself in a precarious position. While she remains Andrew's staunchest ally living with him at Royal Lodge, her own future is uncertain. The king wants that house for the Prince and Princess of Wales, and the pressure to vacate is mounting. Sarah has reportedly asked to stay with her daughters, but with the current tensions, that offer is fraught with difficulty. The situation is further complicated by Beatrice's official role. As a counselor of state, she is one of the few individuals authorized to step in for the king if he is indisposed. This is a position of immense trust and constitutional importance. It places her in a different category than Eugenie. Beatrice is, by law, a pillar of the monarchy. How can she maintain that status while being seen as a defender of a man the monarchy has effectively disowned? The cognitive dissonance required to navigate this is staggering. She is essentially working for the firm that fired her father. Every time she carries out a royal duty, she is reminded of the vacancy her father left behind. a vacancy created by scandal. As the pressure mounts, the cracks are showing. The nervous breakdown mentioned by those close to her is a result of years of suppressed emotion, public scrutiny, and the realization that the family she once knew is gone. The Royal Lodge, once a place of laughter and unity, is now described as a gloomy fortress where a disgraced prince sits in the dark, refusing to accept the reality of his situation. Reports suggest Andrew spends his days obsessing over legal documents and media coverage, a shadow of the man who once flew helicopters in the Falklands. For Beatrice, visiting that house is no longer a comfort. It is a reminder of everything they have lost. It is a mausoleum of their former life. The sisters are now forging separate paths, a move that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. They were the girls who wore matching hats, who shared a secret language, who were each other's bridesmaids. Now there is a distance. Eugenie is spending more time abroad, finding solace in her work and her young family in Portugal and London, away from the relentless glare of the British tabloids. She has found a way to build a life that is geographically and emotionally removed from the epicenter of the scandal. Beatrice, however, remains in the thick of it. She is the one in London, the one attending the garden parties, the one sitting in the front row at royal events. She is the one who has to face the music every single day. But the weight of the York curse is ever present. Every business deal Eduardo pursues, every charity Beatrice supports is viewed through the lens of her father's scandal. When she attends a charity gala, the headlines aren't about the cause she's supporting. They're about whether she's spoken to her father that week. Phil Dampier's analysis highlights that this devastation is not just about the titles or the money. It's about the loss of identity. The York sisters were raised to be the blood princesses, a status they held with pride. They were the only granddaughters of the Queen who were HRHs from birth, unlike the Wessex children. That status was their shield and their identity. Now, that status is a double-edged sword. It gives them a platform, but it also makes them targets. The king's slimmed-down monarchy has no official room for non-working royals like Beatrice and Eugenie, yet they are still expected to behave with the decorum of the highest office. They are in a royal limbo, too royal to be private citizens, but too tainted by association to be full-time working royals. The friend quoted in recent reports sums it up perfectly. The whole sorry saga has been incredibly stressful and it's ripped the family apart. This isn't just a tabloid story. It's a human story of a family in crisis. It's about the moment a child realizes their parent is not the hero they thought they were. It's about the struggle to define oneself outside of a parent's shadow. For Beatrice, this realization has been slow and painful. She has spent years trying to justify the unjustifiable, trying to find the good man beneath the mountain of accusations. But the Newsnight interview was the moment the veil was lifted, even for her. And now, we come to the most critical part of this unfolding narrative. Princess Beatrice has arrived at a crossroads, and the path she has chosen will change her life and the landscape of the royal family forever. Beatrice has reportedly decided to significantly reduce her private contact with her father. This isn't a decision made out of malice, but out of a desperate need for self-preservation. She has realized that she cannot save him, and in trying to do so, she is drowning herself. She is choosing her husband, her daughter, and her role as a counselor of state over the filial loyalty that has defined her life until now. This distancing is the final act of the York tragedy, the moment the last bridge is burned. It is a quiet, painful amputation of a relationship that has become gangrenous. She is focusing her energy on supporting the King and Prince William, positioning herself as a reliable, scandal-free member of the extended family. She is embracing the advice given to her at Sandringham, to hold her head high and look toward the future. She is becoming the bridge between the old guard and the new, a stable presence in a family that has been rocked by the departures of Harry and Meghan and the health struggles of the King and Princess Catherine. By doing so, she is effectively leaving the York identity behind and fully embracing the Windsor duty. It is a heartbreaking choice, but many believe it is the only one that will allow her to find peace. The implications of this are vast. Without the support of his eldest daughter, Prince Andrew is more isolated than ever. He has lost his mother, his honors, his public role, and now the unwavering support of the daughter who once stood by him at his darkest hour. Sarah Ferguson is left to navigate the ruins of their social standing alone. The inseparably bound family is now a collection of individuals trying to survive the wreckage. The Royal Lodge, once the heart of their world, is now just a house. A house that the king is increasingly eager to reclaim. For the 55-plus audience who has watched these princesses grow up, from the little girls in matching outfits to the women they are today, this is a poignant moment. We remember the grand wedding of Andrew and Fergie at Westminster Abbey, the joy of the births of Beatrice and Eugenie, and the hope that they would be the modern face of the monarchy. We remember the 90s, the annus horribilis, and how the Yorks seemed to be the most colorful, if chaotic branch of the family tree. To see it end in this Greek tragedy is a sober reminder of how quickly fortunes can change, even for those born in palaces. It is a story of how the choices of one generation can echo through the lives of the next, creating a legacy of shame that is difficult to outrun. As we look at the future of the House of Windsor, Beatrice's role will be one to watch. She is no longer just Andrew's daughter. She is a woman who has survived a family collapse and is attempting to redefine herself on her own terms. Will she be the bridge that eventually brings the family back together? Or will she be the one who finally closes the door on the York chapter of royal history? Her resilience in the face of such public and private turmoil is a testament to her character, but the scars of this period will likely never fully heal. She is a survivor, but survival comes at a cost. The story of Princess Beatrice is a cautionary tale about the weight of reputation and the complexity of family loyalty. It shows us that even with all the wealth and status in the world, the most important thing is the integrity of one's name. As she moves forward, Beatrice is attempting to rebuild that integrity, one step at a time, away from the shadow of the Royal Lodge. She is learning that sometimes, to save yourself, you have to let go of the people you love the most. It is a lesson learned in the most public and painful way possible. But let's look deeper into the Eduardo factor. Those close to the couple say, Eduardo Mapelli Mozzi is not just a husband, he is a strategist. He comes from a background of Italian nobility and British business success. He understands that the monarchy is, at its heart, a brand. And a brand cannot survive when it is associated with the kind of allegations that follow Prince Andrew. Eduardo has reportedly been the calm voice of reason in Beatrice's ear, helping her see that her loyalty to her father was becoming a form of self-sabotage. He has encouraged her to step up her royal duties, to be seen at events like Ascot and the King's garden parties, looking every bit the professional royal. This transition hasn't been easy. There are reports of tearful phone calls and tense meetings at Royal Lodge. Andrew, ever the stubborn prince, reportedly feels betrayed by his daughter's move toward the king. He sees it as a desertion, but Beatrice, perhaps for the first time in her life, is putting her own mental health and her daughter's future first. She is realizing that she cannot be her father's keeper. She cannot fix the mistakes he made decades ago. The king, for his part, is said to be immensely impressed with Beatrice. He recognizes the difficulty of her position and appreciates her discretion. Unlike other members of the family who have taken their grievances to the media, Beatrice has remained silent, dignified, and dutiful. She is the model royal in many ways, working a private job while supporting the crown when asked, all while navigating a family minefield. Charles sees her as an asset, a way to keep the York line connected to the monarchy without the baggage of her parents. And what of the public? The British public's relationship with the Yorks has always been complicated. They loved the Duchess of York era of the 80s, then turned on her in the 90s. They were wary of Andrew's business dealings for years before the Epstein scandal broke. But there has always been a soft spot for Beatrice and Eugenie. They were seen as the innocent victims of their parents' eccentricities. Now, as Beatrice takes this stand, public sympathy for her is at an all-time high. People see a young mother trying to do right by her child and her country, and they respect the difficult choice she's making. the York Greek tragedy is reaching its final act. The stage is set, the characters have made their moves, and the outcome seems certain. The York family, as a unified political and social force, is no more. What remains are individuals: Beatrice, Eugenie, Sarah, and Andrew, each trying to find their way in a world that has changed irrevocably. For Beatrice, the future is about building a new legacy, one that her daughter Sienna can be proud of. It's about ensuring that when Sienna grows up, the name York doesn't just bring to mind scandals and interviews, but a mother who had the courage to choose duty and family over a broken past. As we conclude this deep dive, we must reflect on the fragility of the royal institution. It is built on tradition and bloodlines, but it survives on public consent and moral authority. When that authority is challenged, the ripples are felt through every branch of the family tree. Beatrice's breaking point is a symptom of a larger shift in the monarchy, a shift toward accountability, slimmed-down operations, and a focus on the future rather than the mistakes of the past. What are your thoughts on this dramatic shift in the York family? Do you believe Beatrice is doing the right thing by distancing herself from her father to protect her daughter's future? Or do you feel she should remain loyal to him despite the scandals? Is the York Greek tragedy a fair assessment of their situation? Or is there still hope for reconciliation? The complexity of this situation is something that resonates with many, and we would love to hear your perspective. Does this change how you view Princess Beatrice? Do you see her as a stronger figure now that she is standing on her own 2 feet? And what about Prince Andrew? Can he ever truly be rehabilitated, or is this isolation his permanent fate? These are the questions that royal watchers are debating in the clubs of St. James and the pubs of Windsor alike. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one and value the insights our community provides. It's through these discussions that we can truly understand the nuances of these royal dramas. Your comments help us understand what topics you want to see more of, and they foster a community of thoughtful, engaged viewers. If you found this deep dive into the York family's current crisis informative and thought-provoking, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel reach more people who are interested in these stories and allows us to continue producing high-quality content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and join our growing community of royal enthusiasts. We have many more detailed reports and analyses coming your way, covering everything from the King's health to the future of the monarchy under Prince William, and the ongoing saga of the Sussexes. We are entering a new era for the British royal family, one defined by transition and transformation. Princess Beatrice is at the heart of that change, a symbol of the struggle to balance the old world with the new. We will be here to document every step of that journey, providing you with the context and clarity you need to stay informed. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We know there are many places you can get your news, and we are honored that you chose to watch our presentation. Your time and attention are greatly appreciated. Stay tuned for our next video, where we will continue to bring you the most accurate, insightful, and comprehensive coverage of the British royal family. Until next time, take care and stay informed. Whether you are a lifelong royalist or someone just beginning to follow the drama of the House of Windsor, we appreciate you being part of our community. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video as we continue to unravel the mysteries of the most famous family in the world.